What if I told you that your favorite snack, the one you can't put down, was engineered that way? Think about it. Chocolate-covered pretzels, salted caramel, kettle corn, even breakfast sandwiches. That irresistible blend of sweet and salty was not an accident. It was designed to keep you craving the food and coming back for more and more. In today's video, we're going to look into the history, the science, and the corporate manipulation behind the sweet and salty foods that you love. From ancient civilizations to modern food labs, we're going to expose how food scientists weaponize these tastes against you. But first, let's start from the beginning. For most of human nature, sweet and salty foods never existed together in nature. Fruits were sweet, meats were salty. The two flavors lived separate lives. That is, until humans started experimenting. One of the earliest known examples is back in Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia. This is like 1,000 years BC. They were using honey and salt to preserve meat. And then a few hundred years later in Rome and China, they've figured out how to use fish sauce to preserve dried fruits. And by then, China had already discovered and learned how to make soy sauces, which were prevalent in their diet. And then starting in around 1000 AD, sugar. Like they figured out how to make sugar, and that was a crazy thing. You should read the book Sugar Blues because you'll find out about the whole slave trade and how sugar pretty much ruled the world. But they used sugar in various meat dishes and pies. And while the ancient civilizations did a little dabbling with sweet and salty, but it was never engineered to maximize their addictive potential. That comes much, much later. The real turning point came when they figured out how to mass produce these products. This was in the early 1900s. One of the first known mass-produced sweet and salty things was in 1928 with the introduction of the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. It was a perfect mix of salty peanut butter and sweet chocolate. And then shortly thereafter came the Snickers bar, which is nougat, salty peanuts, and other chocolate flavors. That's one of the most popular and well-known candy bars in the world. And then in the 50s, the rise of the processed bags of chips came. Frito-Lay started making these salty, shelf-stable chips that everyone loved. Of course, there was added chemicals in them to keep them stable as well as to keep you addicted. But in the 1970s, companies wanted to go beyond simple recipes and they wanted to make more products to keep you addicted. This is where things really start to take a massive turn. You should look this up. In the 70s, there was this guy named Howard Moskowitz, and he was hired by companies like Pepsi, Frito-Lay, and Campbell's to engineer foods to be perfectly addictive. He figured out something called the bliss point. It was the combination of fat, sugar, and other ingredients to make it a perfect taste for the tongue without overwhelming the customer with too much flavor. And as you probably already know, the brain releases dopamine when certain triggers are met. And this is what they figured out in the lab with the salt, sweet, and other chemical additives that make you just brainwashed want this stuff. It's often worse than drugs and gambling. And this was a real game changer for the food industry because now they realized they had the magic formula to get people to constantly eat their food and come back for more and more and more and more. They had permanent customers. And if you fast forward to the 1990s and the 2000s, this is where sweet and salty foods are suddenly everywhere you look. And this wasn't by accident. This is what the corporations wanted. Why do you think barbecue chips are out there and sweet and salty chili chips are out there? They figured out a formula that people find irresistible. And the Starbucks salted caramel craze wasn't just a one-shot thing. They have them now permanently on the menu. That decision was driven by data and sales metrics alone. They realized that they had a winner on their hands. And why do you think fried chicken and waffles are a menu item, or the McDonald's McGriddle sandwich? Those are all byproducts of this research they did to find out salt and sweet was a winning combination. And they rub it in your face too. Oh, I bet you can't just eat one. That was like a marketing trick. They basically just were mocking the customers because they knew that they couldn't just eat one. They optimized the food available to you so you keep eating and keep spending. So what's the end result after years of all this food engineering? Well, take a look. Most of the world is obese now. It's because most of these foods figured out a way to bypass your satiety signals. Like you never feel full. You can shovel an entire bag of potato chips into your belly or eat an entire pizza before you realize what you've done. And of course, the social media targeted advertising, they figured out how to make you into a data point. They know exactly what you want and that you pretty much have a good chance of buying it. And another marketing strategy is this limited time thing, like the limited time seasonal coffees and stuff that have this extra bit of sweetness or flavor. They make you feel like you have to do it soon or you're going to miss out. FOMO. Well, hopefully some of you are aware of food engineering. If you're ever eating something and you realize, man, this is really good and you can't stop eating it, you should probably realize that that's a problem. And if you can, try to eliminate any and all packaged foods. They're all processed and they should be avoided at all costs. Don't even have some a little bit of the time. There's no point. There's no benefit other than you getting like a hit of a drug. And if you balance your cravings with like a diet like the carnivore diet and eat fatty foods, you'll be a lot more satisfied than just eating carbs and other blood sugar raising foods. Because companies don't care about your health. They care about their bottom line. Take care of yourself. Don't take care of their wallets. So what do you think? Have you fallen for the sweet and salty trend? Let me know in the comments. And if you've gotten anything from this video, please consider subscribing because I have a lot more videos like this coming out. Who else wouldn't want to break free from the chains of modern life? Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.